Providing insights to help you grow your business, improve yourself, and add value to those around you. You're listening to the Success is a Choice podcast, where you get a peek into the lives of industry leaders as they share their stories with you.
Hey, welcome everybody to the Leaders Growing Leaders series of the Success is a Choice podcasting network. I'm your host, Jamy Bechler, and today we have a real special guest for you. You're going to learn a lot from her. But before we get to our guest, I want to remind you that today's episode is made possible by the leadershipplaybook.com. Build a stronger culture, a stronger team by having positive leaders and better teammates. Great teams have great teammates. The leadershipplaybook.com. And now our listeners can get 25% off their membership by using the coupon code CHOICE, as in success is a choice. So use coupon code CHOICE at theleadershipplaybook.com. Our guest today, Jamy Bechler. She is the athletic director. She is the head volleyball coach, and she's an assistant principal at Bronson High School in Michigan. She has quite the resume, 5 state championships in volleyball. She was the 2022 National AD of the Year, and she's also in the Michigan Volleyball Coaches Hall of Fame. Jean, we are honored to have you on the show today.
Thanks. Very honored to be here. And it was Volleyball Coach of the Year, not AD of the Year.
Oh, Volleyball Coach of the Year. I'm going to have to fire my intern, whoever gave me that piece of information. Volleyball Coach of the Year. That's still pretty big deal. National. That's pretty big deal. You know, the name of our podcast, Success is a Choice. I'm just going to throw this out there and kind of guess that your definition of success is not just winning and losing, and that if you hadn't been National Volleyball Coach of the Year, that would have been an unsuccessful season, or when you don't win a state championship, that you're not successful. I'm going to guess that your definition of success is a little bit different.
Oh, it definitely is. Although I always say my season wasn't as good as I wanted if we don't make it all the way. But the definition of success to me is seeing our athletes turn into productive citizens for our society. You know, if we're improving every single day on the court, then we know that we're being successful.
Well, that's a great way of looking at success. I like that in the community part, because it doesn't matter if you're from Detroit or if you're from a small town. A lot of the athletes that you're dealing with, a lot of the students that you're working with, they're going to be people that are in that community, and your community 10 or 15 years from now is going to be almost a direct reflection of what they're learning now, of who they're becoming now.
It really is. And it's fun to see the number of student athletes that leave our school, go on to college. And then, you know, we've probably I'm thinking 5 of our current teachers were student athletes here at Bronson. So to me, that's success, you know, when they want to come back and be a part of something that they were when they were in their teenage years.
So what are some things, like intentionally, are there some things that you're doing to help students become better people in the community, to be better on not only on their teams right now, but to one day be a better person in that Bronson community or whatever community that they're going to be in? What are some things that you're doing intentionally to help develop the leadership of your students, or develop them into better teammates or better people?
Excuse me. Some of that is, you know, just teaching them how to pick up a piece of paper when they're walking down the hallway, or please and thank you, or how to treat your parents with respect. You know, so some of it is just that. Just talking to them about those things that they need to be doing on a daily basis. But then it's getting into some book studies with teams. And I've got several coaches who do that, including myself. I think it's important for kids to read about successes of other people and downfalls and problems that people have had. I mean, that's how you learn. So part of it is intentional by talking to them, teaching them how to act appropriately, and then to take it further by getting into some book studies or podcasts.
What are some of the podcasts that you like to listen to? I know you mentioned that. I know I've heard you on some other podcasts as well. Are there some podcasts or books that you like to read to kind of pour into yourself so you have something to pour out into others?
Sure. It's funny. I was working with a coach at a wrestling meet the other day, and he just looked through all the podcasts that I do. So, I mean, I think that's funny. Off-duty ADs, I love. They just don't do it very often anymore. Educational AD podcast, Extraordinary Leadership by Terry Petta. Actually, it's Inside the Coaching Mind. There's just a ton for individual sports and leadership and anything you want on podcasts. And usually that's what I'm doing when I'm driving, is I'm listening to podcasts in my car. Books, for books, I've done 2 of your books with my teams, actually. The Captain and the Leadership Playbook. And I know my boys coach did the Energy Bus. Is that one yours too?
I wish it was. That would be nice. The bus trip.
Okay.
We did the bus trip. But the Energy Bus is John Gordon's. That's a really good one. But the bus trip is not a sequel to the Energy Bus. The bus trip is my own, even though the color scheme on the outside is the same.
I think book studies are important. And our school actually has done school-wide book studies, not on leadership things, but getting kids to read is important these days.
So why is it important? You're a coach, you're an AD. Why is it important to develop other leaders? We call this series the Leaders Growing Leaders series. Why would that be important to grow other leaders as opposed to just, Coach LaClair being way up on a pedestal? I'm the boss 100% of the time. I'm telling you what to do. You need to do it. You need to comply. You need to do what I'm telling you. Why is it important to develop other leaders, whether that's developing student leaders or developing some of the coaching staff, the coaches in your department as leaders?
Sure. One of the things I hear all the time is we don't have leaders from coaches, not just in my school, but other schools. We don't have leaders. That's why we're struggling. We don't have leaders. So we have to develop our leaders. And that's what I push anybody who says that. Then what are you doing to develop? So things that I would do, obviously a book study. Gosh, I felt like we already kind of talked about this. What am I doing to grow leaders? Was that the question? Sorry.
Why is that even important? We kind of skip that step. You were talking about some of the things you do, but why is that even important? Because for instance, me as a young coach, when I first got into coaching, I'm 27 years old. I'm a head coach at the college level. Well, it's kind of all about me. I'm in charge. Trust me, do what I tell you to do because they hired me for a reason, or I know more than you know. But sometimes that doesn't get people to be the best that they can be, is when they're just being compliant followers. Sometimes we have to develop other leaders.
Sure. Okay. I'm sorry. I just lost my train of thought there. So, a strong leader as a student athlete has a quality to keep all players united towards your goals. And I think sometimes kids see things differently from the floor when they're playing than we see them on the court. So they have to be able to make suggestions and feel free that they can do that. And if they don't feel they can speak out, so if they don't have some of those leadership qualities, they're just going to sit back and think it, but not say it. So just giving them the ability to have a voice in the room or in your huddle is extremely important.
So you've won 5 state championships. What has been some of the keys, not just to winning those 5, because you've coached more than 5 years and you've had quote unquote successful teams. You've had good teams other than that, but But what's kind of been a key for year after year having consistent teams, or when you take a team even that maybe is not a state championship level team, what are some things that younger coaches could learn from, or even coaches that have been around a while, that they could learn from you as to how do you approach your season? How do you go in there and say, hey, we're going to maximize our strengths, minimize our weaknesses? How are we going to maximize our potential this year, whether that's a state championship or being a 500 team, however that potential looks or that ceiling looks for a team? What are some thoughts that you have maybe for younger coaches or even coaches that have been around a while?
Sure. Well, you can't base your season on the first month of your season. So it's really important that you know what you're working toward, and people have to understand. I never know what my record is during the season because I don't care. I'm more into, are we making the improvements every day that we need to make? But what I think young coaches need to know is it's not all about X's and O's. It's about relationships and the chemistry of the team. And my kids do a lot of things outside of the gym with me or without me. And I think that's important. Girls especially have to have those relationships with their teammates, and chemistry is just huge. So, we've won those state titles, but if you ask those kids what's the thing they remember the most, it's the camping trip that we do before the season starts every year. They remember that, the camping, the things that they never do, but they find it exciting.
Where do you go when you went camping? Did you go to like a state park, and did you go for a week? What was your thought process of doing a camping trip?
Well, it's a reward for kids to show up in the summer. So you have to make a certain percentage of the summer weight room and open gym workouts to be able to be invited. And it's not just my varsity kids, it's anyone in the program who gets to who makes those sessions. So we do different things. Every other year we go up to Lori Glass's house. Alicia Glass was an Olympian, a volleyball player. So we go to her mom's house. The coaches stay in the house. The kids camp in tents outside of the house, and that works out great. And then every fourth year we go up to St. Ignace in the UP in Michigan. We spend a day on Mackinac Island, and during those camping trips, we've also gone whitewater rafting. During those camping trips, they're cooking all their own food over the fire. I'm really learning who's leaders on those trips and who can explain how to do things, because really the adults don't do the work. The kids are supposed to do all the work. They have to build the fire. They have to prep their food, cook their food, clean their food. So, that's another way of building a leader, because they're figuring out what they have to do to eat. Eating's important.
Yeah, that I imagine that camaraderie and that ability to do things on their own, or to take ownership in what's going on. Like, this isn't just Coach LaClair's thing. This is our thing. I'm guessing that's translated into a lot of the success that you have, when that point that we just had in volleyball, that point is our point. We won that point together. We lost that point together. We're doing everything together. I imagine you see a lot of that translates onto the volleyball court.
Absolutely. And just the fact that they have to figure out how to do some things on their own without being told how to do it. Because that happens on the court. I can't always tell them how to do something on the court. They have to figure some things out. So putting them out of their comfort zone to be able to succeed in life is really important.
So you've had a lot of success, from a wins-loss standpoint. You've won over 1,000 games, Hall of Famer, 5 state championships. What's a mistake that you've made, or something that you wish you hadn't done, that maybe you learned from that, maybe you didn't learn from it, I don't know, but a mistake that you've made along the way that you could share with us that maybe helps us so that we don't have to make that same mistake?
Probably my biggest regret is just my demeanor in my early years, and that I felt I needed to, as a female, and this is also as an athletic director, not just a coach, but as a female, I had to act tough to get the respect. So I've learned I just had to change the demeanor and how I communicate and my delivery skills to be more successful.
So you've learned at least a little bit from that. You're much better coach and athletic director now than you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I would imagine. Are there some strategies, like specific strategies or hacks that you've come up with to help you be a better athletic director through the years? Not not with the demeanor necessarily with that, but some hard skills, because we talk about a lot of times the soft skills are the difference makers as an athletic director, as a leader, as a coach. But sometimes if we have a really good hard skill or some kind of a hack or a strategy we use, that can actually free us up to utilize our soft skills a little bit better. Is there something that you like to do or have done or have learned strategy wise, a hard skill that has really helped you as an AD?
I think that's a hard one. I mean, organizational skills is huge, but probably the thing that gives me more time in my office is before I leave my house in the morning, and I don't usually come in until between 9 and 10 at some point, but usually before I leave my house in the morning, I clear out all my emails that aren't necessary,
Mm.
or these ones I don't have to deal with. These don't need responses. So I just remove them. So when I get into my office, I'm actually just doing the tasks that have to be done that day.
How have you how have you handled being a leader when you're an AD, but you're also a coach? So you're a peer to your coaches, but but you're also the athletic director. So on an organizational flow chart, you're above them, but you're also a peer as a coach. How have you been able to navigate those waters through the years?
I think just the time that I give them. I mean, I'm the AD who likes to sit behind the bench because I like to hear the coaches coach because that makes me a better coach.
Mm.
And sometimes I think it makes them nervous, but I say, "Hey, I'm learning from you. I just want to be better." And so I think they take that and understand that yes, I'm their peer or I'm their superior, but that I want to learn from them as much as they want to learn from me.
Mm. Very good. You grew up in Michigan. You weren't always at Bronson. Give us a little 30-foot snapshot into your career and what made you such a great coach and such a great leader through the years.
I don't know if I have an answer as to what made me a decent coach other than I'm a workaholic, so I put in a lot of time. But I graduated from Dow High School in Midland, but I grew up in Grayling, Michigan, and I left Grayling after my freshman year of high school because the school was talking about dropping sports, and sports was pretty important to me. I grew up as a real young kid shooting archery, competing in archery because my dad worked at Bear Archery, which was in Grayling at that point. So I grew up competing in archery and have always enjoyed competing. I'm competitive in anything I do, and that kind of drives me nuts about some kids today. If we go bowling, they're screwing around and I want to win. So, I'm just a competitor at heart. I love watching kids play and I love watching coaches navigate their teams.
Did you compete uh, at a high level with archery? Did you ever do that, or do you still dabble in archery?
I don't still dabble in archery. I probably haven't shot since junior high because then the other sports kind of took over. But yes, I was pretty good when I was young. I would always win the tournaments we were in. I mean, we traveled every weekend to a tournament. My dad was a professional archer, so he shot and won a lot of money from it. And I mean, I got a B in college because I wouldn't hold the bow how the instructor wanted me to hold the bow, which you couldn't do that when you're in competition, so I might be a little hard-headed too.
So you got a B. You were an archer, but you got a B in that class.
In college, yeah.
Wow. Which college was that?
Saginaw Valley State University.
Yeah, we got to call them out. I mean, you got to. Oh, gave Jean LaClair a B in archery. That's no good. Um, Now, so did you? What schools did you coach at after you left college before you got to Bronson?
So while I was in college, I coached at Bay City Western High School, and that was a JV job. And then from there, I went to Pinconning, and I became the AD and the volleyball coach at Pinconning. I was there for 3 years, and then came to Bronson in 99, 2000, I think. So I've been in Bronson for a while.
Yes. Very good. Well, I grew up in Michigan. As you know, I went to a school that's close by, and my very last basketball game of my career, we were ranked in the top 10 in the state, and we lost to Bronson, your school. We lost to them in the state playoffs. So that was my last go around as a basketball player, was losing on the Bronson High School court. So you are the only positive thing that I think about when I think of Bronson. I do not have positive thoughts about your town or your school other than you. So you have actually overcome that negative thought through all these years. So good job. You're the light in the darkness. So thank you. I can only imagine what you're doing for your current students if you've done that for me. So thank you for that. But as we get out of here, do you have any parting thoughts or parting shots for coaches or ADs out there, leaders out there? This is kind of your last pregame speech before your players hit the floor. The last thoughts that these coaches are going to have when they're listening to this podcast.
I would say never stop learning. Go to clinics, read books, listen to podcasts, but never stop learning for you or your kids.
Very good. Well, hey, everybody, we appreciate you watching this, listening to this on the Success is a Choice podcast network, wherever you are. You can follow Jean on Twitter at Jean LaClair VB, at Jean LaClair VB on Twitter. We'll also put that in the show notes as well. Otherwise, everybody, remember, until next time, success is a choice. What choice will you make today?